Welcome, you curious minds, to MetaBookNook Deep Dives for Curious Minds.
It's great to be diving in again.
Today, we're exploring the core ideas from Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, drawing from a detailed representation of his key teachings.
Of really profound work.
Absolutely. And our mission here is to unpack what it tells us about, well, the present moment, how our minds work, and maybe finding some freedom from suffering.
Which sounds pretty appealing, doesn't it?
It really does. It's about getting to the heart of these ideas, seeing how they might help you find, more inner peace, maybe quiet some of that mental clutter.
Yeah, distilling the essence, making it accessible. So, where do we start?
Okay, so the text kicks off with this really fundamental concept, being. It uses that word quite a bit. What exactly is being here?
Right. So, being. It's presented as this eternal, ever-present life, the single life that's beyond all the forms we see, everything that's born and dies.
Beyond the temporary stuff.
Exactly. It's the deepest reality, the essence of everything. And crucially, it's not separate from us. It is us at our core, our innermost self.
So it's not just some abstract philosophy idea, it's something we can actually feel.
Precisely. But the connection isn't intellectual. It's not about thinking about being. It's about feeling it.
Feeling it? How?
In the now. When the mind goes quiet, even for a moment, when your attention is fully present, that stillness is where you sense it.
And the text says that not feeling this connection leads to an illusion of separation. What does that mean for us practically?
Well, when we lose touch with that feeling of oneness, that fundamental connection, we start to feel isolated, like we're separate little units adrift.
Which sounds kind of scary.
It is. And that perceived separation is, according to the text, a root cause of fear, of anxiety, and conflict, both inside us and with others.
So that connects to the idea of enlightenment being the end of suffering, maybe, like in Buddhism.
Exactly. It resonates strongly with that. This illusion of being separate is a major driver of our unease, our suffering.
It's interesting. The text often favors the word being over, say, God. Is there a reason for that choice, do you think?
Well, the word God comes with a lot of baggage for some people, right? Centuries of interpretations, potential misunderstandings.
True. It can mean very different things to different people.
Right. So being is maybe used as a more neutral term, less loaded. It tries to point directly to the experience of that fundamental essence, bypassing preconceived ideas.
Okay, that makes sense. It keeps it focused on the direct experience.
Yeah, or tries to.
So we have this idea of interconnected being, but our minds, they seem to get in the way quite a bit. The text calls the mind a tool, but one that can be destructive.
Yes, a superb instrument, it says, if used rightly. But it becomes destructive when it sort of takes over your whole life, when you start believing that you are your mind.
That identification, I am my thoughts.
Exactly. And that leads to what it calls compulsive thinking. That endless chatterbox in the head most people live with.
And that constant chatter, how does it actually affect how we see the world or relate to people?
Well, identifying with all that thinking creates this kind of screen. A screen of concepts, labels, judgments, stories.
So we're not seeing things as they are.
We're seeing them through the filter of our thoughts about them, and that blocks real connection. With ourselves, with other people, with nature. It just reinforces that illusion of separation we talked about.
The text even calls thinking a disease sometimes. That sounds quite extreme.
It's a strong analogy, yeah. But think of it like cell division in the body. Totally necessary, right?
Of course.
But when cells divide uncontrollably, ignoring the whole organism, we call it cancer, a disease.
Okay. I see the parallel.
So thinking isn't bad in itself. But when it becomes obsessive, repetitive, totally disconnected from the now,
Right.
When it just runs wild and causes suffering, it's like an imbalance, a kind of mental disease.
And a lot of our thinking is repetitive and kind of useless, isn't it?
So much of it. The text suggests a huge percentage is repetitive, pointless, even harmful. It leaks vital energy. It can become like an addiction.
Which brings us neatly to the ego. How does the ego fit into this mind identification picture?
The ego, in this context, is basically that false self, the self we think we are, created by unconsciously identifying with the mind, with the thoughts.
So it's not our true self.
No, it's a mental image, built from past conditioning, memories, the stories we tell ourselves about who we are.
And it has a funny relationship with time, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Huh.
The ego isn't really comfortable in the present moment. It finds the now insufficient, or just a stepping stone.
So it's always elsewhere.
Pretty much. It lives in the past, regrets, resentments, old stories, or it's projecting to the future, chasing desires, worrying, planning. The now is often just overlooked or used.
And it has this intense need to be right. Why is that so strong?
Because the ego equates its opinions and viewpoints with itself. If its viewpoint is wrong, it feels like it is being invalidated, diminished. It's like a threat to its existence.
A kind of symbolic death.
Something like that, yeah. Which is why arguments get so heated. But when you start to disidentify from your mind, from the ego, that compulsion to be right just fades. Your sense of self isn't tied up in it anymore.
That sounds liberating.
It really can be.
It also seems the ego is always looking outside itself for fulfillment, like it's missing something.
Yes, that sense of lack of incompleteness is fundamental to the ego. Because it is incomplete, it's not the real you. So it constantly seeks things externally to try and fill that hole.
Like what kind of things?
Oh, possessions, status, achievements, approval from others, relationships, even knowledge or looking good. It thinks if I get this, then I'll be whole.
But it never really works long term.
Never, because the source of wholeness is within. It's that connection to being. The text lists many common identifications: job title, social role, nationality, religion, your body, your personal history.
All things we might think define us.
Exactly, but the core message is none of those things are who you truly are.
Okay, so if we're not the mind, not the ego, how do we actually experience that deeper reality, that being? The text talks a lot about the power of now,
Right.
about presence.
Right, the key is shifting attention consciously away from the relentless stream of thoughts and into the present moment.
Just paying attention to right now.
Paying attention to right now, deliberately. When you do that, you create a little gap in the thinking mind. That's the core of presence. And it's the essence of meditation, really.
But you don't have to sit on a cushion for hours.
Not at all. You can practice presence anywhere, anytime, doing mundane things. Like really feeling the water when you wash your hands, noticing your breath as you walk, feeling your feet on the ground, tuning into your senses right now. These simple acts pull consciousness out of thought and into the now.
So everyday life becomes the practice ground.
Exactly. Even just pausing before you react to something, creating that space. And the measure of success, it's how much inner peace you feel. That's the signpost.
And this practice of disidentifying from the mind,
Yeah.
that's presented as really crucial, isn't it?
It's called the most vital step towards enlightenment or awakening. Every time you consciously notice your thoughts without getting lost in them, you reclaim awareness.
You become the watcher of the thoughts.
Yes. You realize you're the awareness behind the thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. That brings a huge sense of freedom. You're not just swept along by every mental current.
And it's important to note, this isn't about becoming stupid or suppressing thought.
Not at all. It's not about stopping thought, which is usually impossible anyway. It's about rising above the compulsive, involuntary thinking.
So you can still think when you need to.
Of course.
Yeah.
You use the mind as the tool it's meant to be for planning, problem solving. But you're not constantly trapped in useless internal dialogue. There's an underlying stillness.
And in that space beyond thought, that no mind state, what's the actual experience?
It's described as, pure consciousness, feeling your own presence directly. A deep sense of I am that isn't tied to any thought or external thing.
That sounds peaceful.
Often intensely peaceful, yes, and joyful. Thoughts might still come and go, emotions too, but they don't define you or disturb that inner stillness. You're just aware of them without identifying. You're connected to your real nature.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. The text talks about emotions and introduces this idea of the pain body.
Yeah.
What's the take on emotional pain here?
It suggests that deep down, most emotions are modifications of one basic feeling, which it calls pain. Not necessarily physical pain, but emotional suffering, unease.
The mind tries to fight it.
Usually, yes. The mind resists pain, tries to escape it, analyze it, cover it up, which often just keeps it going or creates more suffering.
So how do we get free from it?
Freedom comes, again, from disidentification. Stop deriving your sense of self from the mind and its resistance patterns, from the ego. That's what fuels the pain.
But what about positive feelings? Like love, joy, peace. Aren't those emotions?
Interestingly, the text distinguishes them. It says love, joy, and peace aren't emotions in the same way. They're deeper states of being.
Oh.
They arise from that connection with being, that underlying oneness. Emotions, as we usually experience them, are part of the mind's dualistic world, happy, sad, love, hate. They fluctuate. They depend on circumstances.
Whereas true joy or peace
are more inherent, less dependent on externals. The kind of joy the ego gets from, say, achieving something is often just fleeting pleasure. It's conditional. True joy is uncaused, arising from within.
Okay. And this pain body, what exactly is that?
It's described as like an accumulation of old, unresolved emotional pain from your past. It lives in you as a kind of energy field.
A negative energy field.
Yeah, dormant much of the time, but it can get triggered by events in the present that resonate with old wounds.
Now, when it gets triggered?
Once more pain, it feeds on negativity. It can make you unconsciously seek out or create drama, conflict, unhappiness, because that's its food. It can manifest as victimhood or even making others suffer.
Wow. How does it keep its grip on us?
Through unconsciousness, we identify with it without realizing. We think that's me, that feeling of misery or anger. And it thrives in the dark, you know? It fears the light of your awareness.
So becoming aware of it is the way out.
That's the key, observing it, feeling its energy in your body when it arises, but without judging it, without getting caught up in the thoughts it generates, just watching it.
Being the witness again.
Exactly. That conscious presence breaks the identification. You realize it's the pain body, it's not me. And that awareness starts to transmute the energy. It can't survive long in the light of full attention.
Let's talk about time. The text argues our usual perception of time is an illusion. Why?
Well, the mind needs time, right? Past and future, that's its playground. It identifies with the past, projects into the future, the present moment, the now. It's timeless in a way, and the mind sees that as a threat to its dominance.
How is the now timeless?
Think about it. Everything happens now. The past happened now. The future will happen now. There is only ever this moment. The idea of linear time is a mental construct, useful for practical things, but
not the ultimate reality.
Not the reality of being. The text uses the example. Imagine Earth with no humans, no consciousness to measure time. Would Monday or next year mean anything? Chronological time needs a mind to exist.
So our focus on past and future actually hides the present from us.
It covers it up, yeah, with memories, anxieties, plans. It obscures the aliveness, the potential that's only ever found right here, right now. We build up this psychological time, regrets, worries, and that's a huge source of stress and suffering.
So what's the healthier approach to time, according to this?
Make the now the primary focus. Live here. Visit the past and future briefly, only when needed for practical tasks, planning a meeting, learning from a mistake. That's clock time.
But don't dwell there unnecessarily.
Exactly. And crucially, learn to say yes to the present moment, whatever it contains. Accept it as it is internally, because resisting what is, that's the basic mechanism of unhappiness.
That resistance creates the pain.
It does. Negativity flourishes when there's too much psychological time and not enough presence.
This idea of surrender comes up again here. It can sound a bit passive, like giving up.
Yeah, but that's not really what's meant. True surrender in this teaching isn't weakness or resignation, it's an inner yielding. Letting go of your mental and emotional resistance to the present moment.
So, accepting what is, fully.
Unconditionally accepting this moment. It doesn't mean you like it or that you won't take action to change the situation. It means you stop fighting reality internally.
And this surrender, it frees you from the mind's grip.
It does. It dissolves the ego's resistance patterns and reconnects you with being. Resistance creates suffering. Surrender ends it.
But you can still act if a situation needs changing.
Absolutely. Surrender is perfectly compatible with action. In fact, action taken from a place of acceptance often has a different quality. It's infused with, well, maybe intelligence or peace rather than reactive anger or fear.
Okay, so accept the isness of the moment first, then act if needed.
Precisely. Even if the moment is unpleasant, accepting it prevents it from turning into suffering in your mind.
What if you can't accept the situation? What if the resistance is really strong?
Then the teaching suggests, accept your resistance. Notice it. Okay, right now I'm resisting this. Become aware of the feeling of non-acceptance within you.
Observe the resistance itself.
Yes. Just witnessing it without judgment makes it conscious. And consciousness begins to dissolve unconscious patterns. Negativity can't really survive if you're fully present with it.
Shifting to relationships, how do these ideas apply there? What's an enlightened relationship according to the text?
Well, first, it emphasizes that true fulfillment, or salvation as it's sometimes called, isn't found in another person. It's found within you, in the ter. Now, in being who you truly are.
So looking for someone to complete you is problematic.
It often leads to what are called addictive relationships, where you're using the other person unconsciously to fill that inner sense of lack the ego feels. Lots of drama, highs and lows.
But what transforms that?
Presence. Bringing awareness into the relationship, being present with yourself and allowing your partner to be present too. That's the key.
And acceptance plays a big part again.
A huge part. Accepting your partner completely, exactly as they are in this moment, without needing them to change to fit your ego's demands or expectations.
That sounds challenging.
It goes against the ego's grain, for sure. But that very acceptance, that lack of judgment, is what takes you beyond egoic relating. It allows for true communion, a deeper connection beyond just minds clashing or colluding.
Okay. The text then talks about moving beyond just happiness and unhappiness towards peace. What's the difference?
It suggests that things themselves, events, conditions, they aren't inherently good or bad. It's our mind, our resistance or attachment that labels them, creates the positive-negative polarity.
So a bad event isn't intrinsically bad.
From this perspective, it's just what is. And sometimes those difficult events can actually be powerful teachers. They can break down the ego, foster depth, compassion.
So peace comes from
allowing the present moment to be. Just letting it be, without the mind resisting or labeling. That takes you beyond the mind's constant seesaw of happy, unhappy. Peace is deeper than happiness.
Can you have peace even if things are objectively sad or difficult, like loss?
Yes. The text suggests peace is possible even amidst sadness. It comes from relinquishing the inner resistance. Sadness might be there, but the suffering about the sadness dissolves.
And acting from that place of acceptance accesses a deeper intelligence.
Yes, an intelligence beyond the reactive, limited thinking mind. When you accept what is and act from that stillness, your actions tend to be more appropriate, more effective. Unconsciousness resistance. That's what creates the bad things, the drama in life.
And with full consciousness, the drama stops.
Largely, yes. And the joy that arises then isn't dependent on circumstances. It's the joy of being itself, uncaused, coming from within. It's a state of grace, ease, non-resistance.
Now, the text introduces the idea of the inner body as a way to access this state. What is the inner body?
It's not just the physical body we see and touch. It's the feeling of aliveness within the physical body, the subtle energy field that animates it.
Feeling the body from the inside out.
Exactly. Bringing your attention inwards, feeling the life energy in your hands, your feet, your whole body. This anchors you firmly in the now.
And this helps get out of the head.
Tremendously. Focusing on the inner body reclaims consciousness that's usually trapped in thinking. It's a direct portal to presence.
Could you? Guide us through that briefly. How would someone do that?
Sure. You can just close your eyes for a moment and bring your attention inside. Can you feel a subtle sense of aliveness pervading your hands? Maybe a tingling?
Yeah, I think so.
Now see if you can feel it in your feet, then your legs, arms, abdomen, chest. Can you feel your whole body as a vibrant field of energy?
It takes focus, but yes, there's a subtle feeling there.
That feeling is the inner body. It's always there, beneath the noise of the mind. It's timeless. It connects you directly to being, to what the text calls the unmanifested.
The unmanifested.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
But the inner body is described as the doorway. The physical body is almost like a misperception of this deeper energy reality. Staying connected with this inner body is key for transformation.
How does it help with negativity?
Focusing on the inner body raises your vibrational frequency, energetically speaking. Negativity, fear, anger, they have a lower frequency. They find it harder to enter your space when you're consciously inhabiting your inner body. It acts like a shield, almost.
So we should try to feel this inner body during the day.
Yes, as often as you remember. Washing dishes, waiting in line, listening to someone. Keep some attention within. It keeps you grounded in the present.
Are there other ways, other portals to access this deeper dimension?
Yes, the text mentions several. The now itself is the main one, essential for all others. But also the cessation of thinking.
Like we discussed, creating gaps in the thought stream.
Exactly. Through conscious breathing, intense focus on the present, or meditation. Also, surrender that letting go of inner resistance we talked about. That's a huge portal.
What about relationships?
Relationships can be portals, yes. Through presence, acceptance, non-judgment with another person, and sometimes challenging situations.
Like loss or crisis?
Yes. Difficult times can crack open the ego's shell, forcing us into surrender. They can be powerful, albeit painful, doorways to awakening. All these portals involve a kind of death, the death of the false egoic self.
You mentioned the unmanifested. What is that?
The unmanifested is described as the source of all that is manifested, the invisible, formless reality from which all forms arise and to which they return.
Like the source of being.
Exactly. It's the realm of pure potentiality, stillness, peace, intense aliveness before it takes form. Think of it as the silence underneath all sounds, the space in which everything happens.
And presence connects us to this.
Presence makes you sort of transparent to the light of consciousness emanating from that source. You become a conduit. The inner body energy, sometimes called chi or prana, is like the bridge between the manifested world and this unmanifested source.
Is dreamless sleep related?
The text suggests dreamless sleep is an unconscious dip back into the unmanifested. We replenish ourselves there, but we're not usually aware of it. Using the inner body is a way to consciously access that source while awake.
So enlightenment is basically being consciously connected to the source.
In essence, yes. A state of permanent connectedness with being, with the unmanifested.
Finally, how does all this help transform suffering into peace, especially in difficult situations like illness or disaster?
Suffering, the text reiterates, is ego-created. It comes from resistance and identification with time dwelling on the past or fearing the future related to the situation.
So the key is to withdraw time.
Yes. Bring your full attention into the now, even if the now contains pain or difficulty. Accept this moment as it is. Surrender to what is. That doesn't change the external facts immediately, but it transforms you.
It changes your inner state.
Profoundly, and often that inner shift eventually reflects outwards too. Even if you can't accept the external situation, you can always surrender to your inner state, the fear, the grief, the pain you feel right now.
Witnessing the inner feeling without labeling?
Exactly. Just allow it to be there in the light of your presence. That witnessing itself is transformative. It transmutes the pain into peace. Surrender is the pathway, the bridge from mind energy to spiritual energy. It makes this whole dimension a living reality, not just an idea.
This has been incredibly insightful. It really helps to break down these potentially complex ideas into something more tangible.
It's powerful stuff. And experiencing it, even glimpses, is more important than just understanding it intellectually.
Absolutely. Well, you've been listening to MetaBookNook Deep Dives for Curious Minds.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the core ideas from the power of now. If this sparked your interest and you want to go deeper, we really recommend getting the book itself.
Yeah, the source material is always the richest experience.
Definitely. You can find links and more info about that in the description, along with links to our other deep dives.
We hope you'll tune in next time for another exploration.
Join us next time here on MetaBookNook. Until then, maybe try feeling that inner body. Just for a moment, find some peace in the now.